guys, welcome to Algebra 1/2, Lesson 58. Today we're talking about decimals, fractions, and percents. They're really all related. So if you know a fraction, you can write it as a decimal and as a percent. If you know a percent, you can change it to being a decimal and a fraction. It's really easy. So because they're all related, whatever we're given in a particular problem, we can change and change it from one to the other. So for example, if you have 1/5, that's the same as writing 0.2, which is the same as 20%. Well, how do we go from one to the other? Well, to go from a fraction to a decimal, you divide. 1 divided by 5. So we get 0.2. Then to go from a decimal to a percent, you just have to divide by 100, meaning you move your decimal place 1, 2 to the left and add your percent sign. That's it. So it's really simple. Let's try with 51 over 100. Sorry, my fraction bar accidentally slightly erased. All right, if I have 51 over 100 as my fraction, I first want to change it to a decimal because it's easier to change from, we have to change from a fraction to a decimal to then go to a percent in the first place. So I'm already dividing by 100. That's really easy. When I divide by 100, that means I move my decimal place over that many zeros. So I move it over 2 places. Since I'm dividing by 100, I move it over. So it becomes 0.51. And I just realized a little earlier I misspoke. I said that when you change from a decimal to a percent, you divide by 100. That was incorrect. You multiply 100, moving it to the right, okay? So when you divide by 100, you move it to the left. All right, so now I have 0.51. Well, to change from 0.51 to a percent, I multiply by 100, meaning I move it over 2 places. So it becomes 51%. And that's as easy as it is. It's not very hard at all. Now your book has something that it calls reference numbers. That means that they say, since you already know this, you can, every time that you have to solve one of these tables that they have, you can write in, for example, 51 over 100, 0.51, 51%, to remind you how you go from one to the other. But you don't need to do that, okay? You just need to remember how to change from one to the other. So where it says start by putting in reference numbers, you can ignore that particular phrase, okay? So let's look at example 58.2 and let's complete the table. So I know that I have 25%. Now notice in your table, in your book, they just have 25% without the percent sign. I would go ahead and write it in when you are doing your table so that you don't forget. It's not just 25, it's 25%. Okay, let's change that to a decimal because I need to find my decimal and my fraction. Well, to go from a percent to a decimal, we're going backwards. When we change from a decimal to a percent, we moved our decimal point to the right. So since we're going the other direction, we move our decimal point to the left, 2 places. So 1, 2, it becomes 0.25. Now, to go from a decimal to a fraction, we put our number, that is our decimal, over the power of 10 that matches the number of decimal places we have. So I have 2 decimal places. So I put 25 over, since I have 2 decimal places, I need 2 zeros, okay? That's as simple as it is. But before I continue, I have to make sure that this is as reduced as it can be. Some of you might already be going, Miss Ashley, don't be silly. 0.25 equals, and you already know what fraction it equals. But this is for anybody who doesn't know off the top of their head what fraction it equals. So I have to reduce. I can reduce 25 over 100 to 1/4. So that is my final answer, 1/4. So 1/4 is 0.25, which is 25%. Okay, let's try this one. My fraction is 1 over 16. Well, let's start by changing it to a decimal. So to change it to a decimal, I divide my 1 by 16. So to divide, well, I can't divide 1 by 16, so I need something else. So I put a decimal point so I can annex a 0. Can I divide 10 by 16? No, it's still too small. But before I move on, I have to put my decimal point up here, and since I have a decimal point, I have to put a 0 here before I move on. I can't just annex another 0. I have to put a 0 there because there has to be something to hold this place that I could not divide into. Okay, so now I have 100 divided by 16. Well, what's the closest I can get without going over? Let's try 6. 6 times 6 is 36. Carry my 3. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 3 is 9. Subtract. I get 4. Got to annex another 0. I can see a problem. I'm probably going to run into this work over here, but that's okay. All right, bring down my 0. 16 into 40. Well, I know that 16 times 2 is 32, so that's pretty close. So 16 times 2, I know is 32. Subtract, 40 minus 32 is 8. Annex another 0, bring it down. How many times can 16 go into 80? Well, let's try 5, because 6 was really close with 96, but it's too big. So let's go down 1 to 5. 5 times 6 is 30. Carry my 3. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 3 is 8. So I have 80 minus 80 is 0. I kind of ran out of room there down at the bottom, sorry. But you'll have more room on your paper. There we go. Adjusting my camera so you can see. All right, but I got to 0, so my fraction is done, or my division is done. So that's my decimal. 0.0625. Now I want to change that decimal so that I have my percent. Well, remember, I move it over 2 places. Since my chart goes this way, I'll use that to help you remember your decimal point. From decimal to percent goes this way. 2 places. So it becomes 6.25%. Okay? All right, go ahead and pause now and do your practice. Okay, you should be back with both of your tables filled in. For the first table, you have 1/8. The decimal, letter A, is 0.125. So the percent, letter B, is 12.5%. Letter C, in the second box, you're given the decimal 0.22. So the fraction, you start by putting 22 over 100. Reduce that down, you get 11 over 50. And letter D, the percent, would be 22%. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. You're going to be doing a table like this. And number 5, so you have 2 rows. The first row, A and B, go with the percent is 25. And the second row, C and D, you go with the fraction 1/2. Let me know if you need any help, if you have any questions at all. I'll see you in our next lesson. Bye.